everyone. If this is your first session with us, I'm Andrew. I'm co-founder and CEO of Reason Automation. Thank you for joining us for the final day of our Amazon X AI working sessions. So with that in mind, I'm going to shut up and let Scott introduce himself and introduce his topic.
Awesome. No, thanks, Andrew. I genuinely excited to talk about what I have today. And this is something, like everything, it's new, but I have actually made impact in this with my business. And so I do know, again, there's takeaways, but there's also just a new way of thinking about we're going to talk about AI visibility. And so there's lots of different ways that, I'm sure, this is like the session number 9 that like AI is impacting e-commerce. And the one that I want to share, I'm certain it's already here. And I don't think people think about it a lot. It's not the first thought when they think about this new era. But just a quick about me. I started out as an Amazon seller, scaled a reseller business. But when I said I sold on Amazon, I was really just a software developer. And so I've turned that into SmartScout. So I've been running that for about 5, 6 years. Shoot, I was going to take this out, but this is just my claim to fame that one of my products, we sold tens of thousands of products on Amazon. One of them was called Liquid Fire, and it was the reason that Amazon got fined by the FAA. So this is my claim to fame in the FBA world. Fortunately for me, very lucky, we were not found culpable. Amazon was, so that's just a funny little story of all the types of things that I've tried to sell on Amazon. And then, I usually think more about like the different data levels. This is what I nerd out on. But more lately, I'm going to talk about AI visibility. Here I have it as consumer product discovery. So let's back up. When the ChatGPT it was like November 2022. And there's been so many ideas and so many different ways that AI is impacting your day-to-day life. Andrew, help me out here, but I assume most people here are managing e-commerce in some way, managing marketplaces. Maybe they have a D2C component. Maybe it's Walmart, TikTok Shop.
Yeah, I think we've got the full pantheon represented here
Okay.
of folks who are all the way from, smaller independent sellers who are mostly just solo entrepreneurs, all the way to folks who are representing larger enterprise e-commerce teams. I recognize several of the attendees, and I know that they're representing, tens or hundreds of millions of dollars in vendor sales or seller sales
Yeah.
globally.
And your role in an organization, whether you're a solo operator or you're part of a big team, some of these may have a bigger impact on you. And I put this together. This is totally my opinion. You guys can fight me on it. I could be totally wrong, but I do have at least opinions on the final two. So in terms of content creation, like it is clear that creating compelling content, either text or image, it's here and people are able to like do some cool stuff. I'm sure you guys have learned some things. You may be past me on what your capabilities are. Product development, yes, it's here. Market research and analytics, absolutely. The ability to like combine data sets. We're no longer encumbered by a user interface. We can just, take the data, ask a chatbot, and before we know it, we learn. Now, last year, I feel like 2025, you could not escape this idea that people were talking about agentic commerce. That's basically, think a chatbot just buying for you, buying like preemptively. Maybe you never have to see, maybe you have to never enter your credit card information. You never have to click the 4 buttons to actually get it to your house. And it's clear, people have done this, but it's not here. It is not widespread. And we don't know exactly what it's going to look like. I think what is here is this next one, consumer product discovery. I know it's here because like it's impacted my life of like how I take, if I'm making a serious purchase, whether, obviously the high ticket, cars, I'm going to show off a treadmill that I bought and my process of learning how to buy what I wanted to buy. And so this product discovery, the flip side of the e-commerce operator is going to think about how do we make ourselves visible in this product discovery. Um, so
And sorry, Scott, really quick, if you don't mind going back, I have a quick interjection that I just can't help myself on
yeah,
because I
yeah.
am a I my last few roles at Amazon were actually in Alexa shopping.
Okay.
And
Oh,
we were trying to build the actual like voice commerce function and whatnot. And the if anybody here in the audience watching it was also at Amazon at that time, then you probably have a lot of PTSD flashbacks to the promise of voice. Every Prime Day had voice deals and yada yada yada, and everybody was so hot on the idea that like that was
yeah.
where the last transaction
Oh,
completion was going to happen. And it was a complete wet firecracker in exactly the same way that my gut tells me Agentic is going to be for the next foreseeable future. But you're 100% right that all of the supporting things, including product discovery, are already here and super, super prominent. So just huge plus one to your point here.
no, no, no. That's funny because like Andrew, like that was one of my first feelings as well. When I see like agentic commerce, I'm like, oh, this feels very close to Alexa voice shopping, which interesting and feasible, but like, will people adopt it? Will it become, I mean, you talk to any, uh, most of, many people's wives, like shopping is like the fun part,
Right. Yeah.
seeing it, checking out. Oh my goodness, I don't even want to go into this. I saw a Korean app that basically it's a video game that all you do is just shop. It's all fake,
Yeah.
but the game is just like you just choose what you want to buy and you just like what agentic commerce becomes, I don't know. But I just wanted to like ground us around some data points that according to a study from PackView, 20% of conversations show shopping intent. And that's kind of true for me. Even if like sometimes I'm like totally top of the funnel, I'm just like curious. Like, is creatine impactful? We know if you say something about creatine, like, you're only a few steps away from being at the bottom of the funnel. Um, and so, so much search is happening here. Now, I'm going to just take a story like this happened to me, I think February this year. Our treadmill broke down. And I'm like, trying to show my wife that she could trust me with a big purchase. This is like $3,000 to $6,000 was kind of like our budget range because we're hoping for it to last for 20 years. And I really wanted to like get the best that I could with that dollar. Now, so I just asked questions. What's the best treadmill out there that has iFit or Peloton content? I wanted like the run with you video kind of experience. And so already out the gate, I'm asking some very specific questions. Um, and note here, I asked one simple question. Here is all of the citations that ChatGPT is bringing in to make more informed content. Like it kind of needs this refresher, this context to give better answers. If you use ChatGPT in 2022 and 2023, you knew that like it's like, hey, I'm not internet aware. If you're talking about a current event, like I'm not trained on that data. They kind of like fix that by doing searches. Now, I didn't ask just one question. I asked multiple questions and I wanted like dynamic in the weeds, tell me about the durability or firmness of this. Compare two versions. I think I asked the same question in very different ways because I was like, okay, there's Nordic Track and then there's Matrix. Matrix is what you see in gyms a lot, but like it's a little bit more expensive. Is it worth the next $2,000 or to get to the upgraded model? You know, um, all of this decision process, this learning process, this discoverability is happening inside of ChatGPT. It's crazy to think that like that's why I say this is arrived. This is here. People are doing this constantly in categories. I'll be the first to say some categories are more likely than others, and probably the more expensive your product, the more this matters. But then again, there's some customers, they just want to get it right. They don't want to like for me, it's a risk to my wife to just like get the wrong treadmill. And even to the point that I'm asking for a coupon code. So, real bottom of the funnel types of questions. Now, we're going to talk about a little bit about just to refresh everyone so we're all on the same page of how to do LLMs build out recommendations. And I saw this and I thought this was really interesting to see that there's a correlation between AI visibility and SEO. We'll jump into that a little bit, but Claude's not using Google search to find the citations. They're using Brave's search engine. So it's kind of like it's very interesting to see that they have all this training data, billions, almost trillions of data points, but they want that fresh insight. And so they're doing searches. So there's almost like a search engine component. So that's why I feel like SEO is related. It's like, how is your product positioned? How is your category positioned through search? And I saw even last week, Amazon's Alexa is also bringing in citations because they want to know, the latest, what's going on. And Claude, which is like totally trending, as everyone knows, it uses Brave's search engine. They don't use Google. So very interesting. And so SEO for Brave would be more effective than Google SEO. Again, this is just to illustrate what an LLM is. It's just kind of trained on all of internet data, and it uses that to predict. In the underpinnings of AI, it's like what's the next best phrase or word, and it's trained on internet data, whether that data is correct or not. I am certain people are having a heyday creating fake internet data only to see that get served up. And responses. I'm sure, you've probably seen people like make fake edits in Wikipedia, and some of them have stayed there for years, and so that's certainly happened. But like, just know that like the body of internet data is the source. Now, some sources are better than others. This is a study from Profound that found the share of top 10 websites in the citations. When I say citations, just know that this is just an article or a link that these LLMs are bringing in to have like the fresh data. So I think this is dynamic. It's not always 48% Wikipedia, Reddit. I've seen updates to this, but it's a good way to think of how it ingests it. And most of the time, these are high trust websites, very nerdy stuff, NerdWallet, TechRadar, G2, and Forbes, Reddit. These are not small time blogs, but, news publications that have, a fair amount of authority or credibility. Okay. So I just want to show, this is actually using a tool called Surfer SEO. I've seen this happen a few times where overnight, this is the day that an article went live. and hit, like the top 10 search results. And overnight, the mention rate, was in the zeros or tens of percentages, and then just popped up to 50%. So um, this illustrates this perfectly that like, if you have like a good SEO strategy and you have good content that like it gets brought in, it's going to impact visibility. So it feels like this whole thing moves us beyond keywords. This is probably the paradigm pre-ChatGPT, or even still going on today. People are there, and here we have a top-selling product, and man, treasure box toys for classroom, birthday, Xmas, gifts, goodie bag, mini, animals, mochi, squishy, stress relief, sensory, toys, random. Lots of keyword stuffing going on. And is this stuff going to be answering specific questions of like, I did this yesterday, gifts for a 2-year-old. I don't know if this gives that specific context that's helping. So when it comes to, surfacing visibility, context and specificity, it's king. Best protein powder for sensitive stomachs. Travel stroller that fits the overhead bin. I 100% know that question gets asked. Non-toxic cookware for induction soap. Gift for a 10-year-old who likes science. Dog bed for large senior dogs with arthritis. Those are the types of real questions that customers would ask. Not just dog bed, not just gift for 10-year-old, but the search, the way that consumers are using it is adding like just a little bit of context and hoping that these LLMs, they know, because they're using all the body of data on the internet. So now this all builds up to this question. So like, are you visible? Are you how can you see if you're successful here? And I think you can measure this yourself. I probably do this like on my phone once a week. I ask a specific question, just wondering, did my product make the cut? And that's a low precision way. Certainly you can learn some things, but the thing about these LLMs is they'll give you a different answer every single time you ask. And so to be more accurate, to measure visibility, you have to like pull it 10 times, 20 times, 30 times over a course of a few days. And from that, you can have a statistically, viable, like, hey, we're on average, we're 10%. Now we're 50%. So that's the kind of like framework in which I've worked and built around. And like, again, like people, you can do this yourself. You don't need anything, but there are tools. I'm happy to share everything that I've used. I've talked about Profound and Surfer SEO. Those ones are very good at Google. LLM visibility, or like just the generic. But I'm always like, I'm Amazon first. So I'm like, how is this working in the Amazon ecosystem? So let's ask specific questions. Best unflavored micronized creatine, monohydrate powder with 5 grams of serving. I like creatine. Give me the best. Or which creatine powder is recommended for both muscle gains and cognitive function? So, you can be very broad, or you can be very detailed in the prompt. And what you want to do is pull that, as often as possible to get an idea who are the winners and losers in this game. So here's the results. Thorn creatine, naked, and this German creatine. And if you see, they all have micronized um, as a in part of their title. So I'm not a creatine expert. I just know a few of the terms. I don't know what micronized means, but um, these guys are targeting that. And because of that, they're visible 100% of the time. Every single time that we asked ChatGPT for the Amazon recommendation of a micronized creatine, these guys were there 100% of the time. Now, there's some people that are here most of the time, in the 90s and the 80s. Then there's some people that are there half the time. So, obviously, if there's an impression to be made, an upper funnel conversation, or even bottom of a funnel, like higher visibility is better. And I'll jump into the best of my knowledge how to influence that. We've covered, like, I think you already have, as we some idea. It is the body of the internet. Hundreds of different sources, but some are going to be more impactful than others. Then you can do this at a brand level. Optimum Nutrition has 4 products that are getting surfaced, whereas Thorne only has 1. And these are kind of like the different ways to think about how people, whether they're using Alexa, Claude, ChatGPT, how they're discovering and learning and seeing products. So now there's when a year ago, it was actually a little bit less than a year ago, I didn't even think this was possible because I was told Amazon's blocking ChatGPT. And I don't know this is dynamic, but I was able to look inside of like the reasoning that ChatGPT did, and it's absolutely doing Amazon searches. So Amazon's blocked agentic commerce, but they haven't blocked at least the same type of scraping that Google does, just learning about the product. I know they blocked like the checkout pages and they've sent cease and desists, but like here's an example right here. I want to buy creatine. I'm not saying anything about Amazon here. I want to buy creatine. What's the top recommended product? Here it is. Thorne creatine on Amazon or on Target. Transparent Labs creatine on Amazon, or you could go to their official website. This is ChatGPT just trying to answer the question the best way that it knows. And it's, it knows many people want to buy on Amazon, or a lot of the links to creatine products are on Amazon. So it's going to send traffic there. So this is dynamic. Like, I don't know the exact relationship between, a search and an Amazon purchase, but like, this is reflecting reality today. I put this together as kind of like a really interesting way to think about, the estimated monthly revenue of a creatine brand, or contrasted that with its visibility. So I ran another, search just on creatine and found that some are more visible than they have revenue, and some have more revenue than they are visible. So, this could be, I kind of think for some of these down here, like sports research or bulk supplements, this might be a leading indicator that like, hey, they're relatively high visibility to their revenue. And I would expect their revenue to climb as, people keep searching and learning. Right now, you can't listen to a podcast without getting a creatine advertisement at some point. And so, people are taking those ads, they're going to LLMs, they're learning, and ultimately, maybe they'll be like, hey, bulk supplements looks pretty trustworthy to me. ChatGPT mentions it, so I'm going to trust it. I was also curious, like the same thing works for treadmills, high consideration product. This answers kind of my question you know, what are the what are the best treadmills? Who's getting the most visible? Nordic Track, Peloton is down here at number 6, uh, and this really does work for any category. Okay, now I spend a lot of time talking about the buildup, the problem set, your visibility, but how do you make a difference? In every single ChatGPT search, in every Claude search, they come up with citations or sources, and those sources will mention specific products. And this one's done for the treadmills. I can tell that because here we have NordicTrack.com, and how many prompts it was. This kind of like organizes that data. How many ASINs did we find there? This shows that usually the top one is Amazon.com. ChatGPT is looking at Amazon.com, and then the frequency of the responses. So this is almost like an indicator of like, if it's pulling up in every single result, 20 times, 12 times, 8 times, that's a relative strength of that source or how often it's getting checked. So runnersworld.com, very interesting. That's just like a publication, like not a newspaper, a magazine, and it's influencing so whatever runnersworld.com is saying is influencing the products that it gets mentioned. This barbend.com, I think if I go back, yeah, it was the 3rd most cited. And here we have this article, the 9 best treadmills on Amazon of 2026. Again, I do need to emphasize again that like every category will be slightly different. How are people searching your product? I personally would prefer to buy on Amazon. And this one is all treadmills on Amazon, and it's got the 9 best ones. You're either here or you're not. And what it says about you is going to impact what it does. And so, it even has like their recommendations: best overall, best with iFit, best for running, best manual, best smart treadmill. And it gives different recommendations. So, the truth is, I think when it comes to like this off Amazon effort or your visibility, it's hard to make overnight success. But in one category that I was working on, we had a product that was like, I think the 9th most visible. And then we reached out to all these publications and had about 10 to 20 different content updates on those publications. And like, I'll be honest, like it was a labor of love. And we went from 9th in the category to 3rd most visible. So that is some of the effort required. And, this may be out of like the specific vertical you're in, but there's no question that it does, that it impacts it. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit more about what you can do on Amazon. So this research paper about Amazon Cosmo taught us a lot about how's Amazon approaching this. And Andrew, I that you worked for Alexa with it. I'm wondering if like the term Cosmo itself is going to go the way of Rufus, and it's just all going to be called like Alexa. I don't hate that from a branding standpoint. I think you're muted.
Yeah. If I had to guess, yes, it's all going to go the same way. Ultimately collapsing into whichever brand Amazon feels like is actually makes the most sense from a consumer perspective.
It's kind of like Google's foray into like Bard and like their different like AI, and then they just like, okay, we're just going to be Gemini. Like, you want to consolidate AI.
Yeah, it's like AI already has a naming problem, like how many different Claude models are there and which versions of those, and
Oh my
ChatGPT
goodness.
had the same problem. So let's go for simplicity, please.
So yes, so Cosmo or now Alexa, they talked about what how they are going to ingest information about your products that ultimately lets them understand and get context about your product on Amazon. And inside this, they say like, hey, there's 15 different questions that we want to know about every product on Amazon. So clearly, you want to make sure that you're answering those questions. Here they are. Like you could screenshot this. You could actually just Google to get to that Cosmo paper and find those questions yourself. And they may seem obvious, but you'd be surprised how much, how uh, few Amazon products are answering all of these questions. Like maybe they're answering most of them, but there's a lot, and you can answer them in your text and your images. So they're looking at, what is the product? Who is it for? When do they use it? Like, what type of, what role does it play in the larger experience? What products is it paired with? What lifestyle or interest does it support? And already you can see why I feel it's not very hard to understand, the specific types of consumers that might be a fit for one product over another. If, you want a softer touch treadmill, or if you want a very firm treadmill, you would need to say that, and you would need all the content on Amazon and off Amazon to kind of reverberate or to echo what your product's known for. And so I, just as a tester or someone that just likes to, like I've seen this visibility play out, and I wanted to take some of my products and just like ask the question, hey, are we answering this? This is a SanDisk Ultra micro memory card, and we ask the 15 different questions, both on a written and visual basis. Like, are we answering the questions? And overall, across the 15 questions, like this one gets an 81 out of 100. The good news is, hey, there's room for improvement. I probably don't want to get 100 out of 100 on my product, because then it means like there's probably not too much I can do. And so if you want to reach out to me, like I'm happy to like nerd out on like how to score products. But ultimately, like my goal in this presentation was just to talk about this issue of visibility and how it's like it's already here in your category.
100%.
In your category, it may actually be very impactful, more than you would like. If you're in treadmills or cars, like high consideration, or even like kitchen appliances, I guarantee you, like it's there. Now, if your product is less than $10, maybe people aren't researching it as much on ChatGPT, but unless it's a consumable, of course, people care what they ingest. And so I don't know. Very interesting. I am excited to see where this goes. I think we're kind of the beginning phases of visibility, but I mean, I'm convinced like it's here. It's impacting lots of transactions today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Scott. I feel like there is so much there that I and everybody else has questions about to follow up on. And accordingly, we've got some questions for you. So the
Okay.
first one, thinking back to the beginning when you were talking more generally about just tracking LLM visibility. You mentioned a bunch of tools, but I just want to make sure that for anybody sitting at home trying to write all these things down, what were some of the tools you mentioned about tracking if or how you're showing up in LLMs versus just kind of
Yeah.
going in and checking yourself?
Okay, so I think about this. So if you're familiar with like the Google SEO tools, like Ahrefs, SEMrush, um, this is kind of like this is like the SEO of like this decade. It's kind of evolved into AI visibility, and there's so many tools. I can tell you some of my favorites, like the ones that I pay for and use, and some of them are going to be better at like just surfacing like your categories visibility, and some are a little bit more geared towards e-commerce, like they might have a bit better. I think Profound has like an e-commerce angle to it. I've worked on some of this a little bit myself, but I'm just in the Amazon lane. I use Surfer SEO. It's very simple and it gets you straight to like, I like to surface the most uh, visible citations. I mean, like some of the tools that like I was already using, they
Yeah.
just built it. Like HubSpot actually has it, and we were already using it for very different reasons. And if you type in AI visibility like software, there's probably about 50 answers right now. And I just told you some of my favorites.
Yeah, just to add on to that, the Scott's point about like all your existing tools are probably building it in is really, really key. And this is a fun time because everybody's starting from the same point, and even though there are certain tools that do things a little bit differently than others, the best and most important thing is to use one. And the easiest one to use is one that you're already signed up for, one you're already paying for, and just get started with what it says before you start shopping around for like the quote unquote best tool. Just start using one
I,
and
I agree. Like I think, just answering the question, answering a specific, query or prompt about your category and then measuring it, they're all going to surface similar results.
yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, like for a reason, we use SEMrush and Ahrefs, both of the tools that Scott mentioned earlier for SEO, because I've been an SEO geek my entire life. And to his exact point, they rolled out AI visibility tooling and measurement like almost immediately. And
Yeah.
like, is it any good? I don't actually know. I haven't done an exhaustive, comprehensive thing versus everybody else, but the answers appear to be mostly the same. So yeah, just get started. One more, and I'm really excited to hear your take on this one. But I think a lot of folks here are, now swimming in a ton of information about thinking about how their products show up. And there's 45 different ways that they could kind of approach this. You gave them 15 different Cosmo questions. They're probably thinking about how do I go and manage all that in my catalog, et cetera, et cetera. And so, in your perspective, like if you had to prioritize amongst that universe, how would you even get started? Like, what two or three actions should somebody here take this afternoon to go and improve how their top products are being surfaced and recommended?
Well, I like the first thing I would do is just ask a question yourself in an LLM and look at the citations. Like, be aware this is who's talking about your product in your category. And if there's like a powerful, like if there's a listicle, like, like the best 9 treadmills, um, it could be worth building, you're reaching out to them and giving them a reason to include your product. Uh, and because like you're almost investing in the future so that the next generation of LLMs, it's training off of that. So, um, uh, that's probably like the first thing. Even maybe you don't want to reach out to them yet, that's fine. But just like see the types of articles, the types of citations that it's building out. Um, and then I also would look at here's a great example. Um, there's a grill company in my town, and it's a very big category, probably high consideration. They decided they're like, we're gonna win at tailgating. There's like 10 different ways to use a grill. There's camping, there's this, there's that. Like, we're gonna win at tailgating. And so they made sure that their content across the board is tailgating. And so when um someone's searching like, hey, it's like, it's football season. I want to grill for tailgating. They're gonna have an easier time being known for something because they planted their flag. So I do think the features of your product, you're gonna want to synchronize across your content so you get known for that. If you change the wording every single time, it's not going to know what to make of it. And so it is a reason to plant your flag in a category and not try to be everything to everyone. If you're creatine for women, if that's like, your niche, make sure you say that in your content, in your images, and eventually you'll be known for that in the LLMs. So yeah, those are two different, early ideas that I would just take action on.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I can't emphasize enough how much I agree with just going and doing the search and asking the questions yourself. I feel like a lot of us have some hesitation about discovering like what the reality might be and are like, oh, do I really want to know? And I see this all the time because I do vendor financial data, and a lot of times brands haven't taken the effort to understand what their profitability looks like because they're afraid of the answer, or they know that their stakeholders are going to get pissed off about the answer or what have you. And those are all very, very valid feelings and not valid reasons to not do it. And in the same way, doing that initial AI visibility research, and being really honest with yourself about, to Scott's point, who are you targeting? What niches are you going for? What is the AI search experience for those niches and those types of questions today? And being really honest about where you rank
Yeah.
or don't rank at all. And
I,
if you haven't gone through that exercise, ugh.
I've got one thing to add. So, what's actually nice about this, specifically the measurability tools, is like, hey, there's a number. You're in fifth place visibility. You're somewhere, which lends itself to like something that you can track over time and improve upon. Like I said, like we had one quarter, our goal was to go from ninth place to third place. And so you can work on it and make measurable progress. Like, how many things that we do on e-commerce are like less measurable? This one is measurable. Your product page like score. How are you answering these questions? How visible are you? 30%, 60%. Do you want to like get to somewhere? So, if you're like just let's say you're part of a big team and sometimes like measuring work and progress is a big deal. It's
Mhm.
like, hey, we were here and now we're here. And so that's one thing that I've kind of gravitated towards it. If there was no way to like measure this, I probably wouldn't have gotten as nerded out.
Yeah.
So
It
yeah.
honestly, the parallel that I take is, and this is again very niche, but F1 driving and racing. If you're not familiar with the way F1 works, it's only 10 teams, 20 drivers in a given year, and so there's not a lot of variability. And the top people and the bottom people tend to be known really far in advance, and so oftentimes you might ask if you're not familiar, like why bother, right? And they're not trying if you're in 20th place to go win the next season, like that's not a realistic goal, but they are trying to win or want place in one race and maybe move from 20th to 19th to 18th, and they celebrate those wins. And the only way that they can do that is by measuring rigorously and being really, really open and honest with themselves about the current position and what improvement opportunities look like. So I really respect that point. Any last questions, please do get them in now. But one thing I will add is Scott has been very generous about not pitching SmartScout in the context of this presentation. But of course, his own tool is really good at auditing that product and category level visibility. A lot of the example visuals you saw in his presentation today came straight out of SmartScout. So since he won't say it, I will go check it out. It's a good way to get started with Amazon visibility if you haven't already started with other tools. Scott, thank you so much for your time on a Friday during Prime Day week and with a new child. So I appreciate you, taking a break from your parental duties. I'm sure your family appreciates it as well. And thank you very much, everybody. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Thanks, Scott. Be well.